we need to break that old habits of the repeated programs in the mind of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. In the Bible, God says, I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I am the truth, the way, the light. However, what do we say about ourselves? I am tired, I am broke, I am bored, I'm ugly, you know, all these things. You don't really hear yourself say, I am beautiful, I'm rich, I'm happy. Why is that not what's coming out of our mouths through words? Because words create reality. Words literally shape the reality around you. They set things into stone. They put it into motion. Words do create. That's why God speaks reality into existence. However, we oftentimes speak a reality into existence that's not in alignment to God. Because God would never say, I'm broke. Okay? What would we think if God said, I'm broke? We would say, has God lost his mind? Sound mind comes from the awareness of the divine inside. So for you to say you're broke, you're unworthy, you've done lost your mind. The mind that's been established from the beginning with God. God created a sound mind. Our minds become distorted. So if God said something like that, we would literally think he lost his mind. Why do we say those things about ourselves? That's because deep down within, something came about where we pre-accepted the idea that we were not good enough, that we were broke, that we had to work hard for money, whatever it is. We pre-accepted this truth. These are called precepts. Somebody tells me I'm ugly and I believe that. That became my pre-accepted truth. All of a sudden, my identity forms to that reality of I'm not good enough, I look like this, you know, I don't look good. And then I begin speaking it. I don't feel good, I don't look good, I'm not good enough, you know. Breaking the God within. God created us in his image. He didn't create us to be those things. So when we are in that image, we are worshiping a false idol. God says in the second commandment that we should follow his statutes only, okay? No, do not serve any graven images. Those are the graven images. They don't have to be carved into stone in that kind of way. It's the law. Law is written. Law is a stone. It's carved because we must stay within the boundaries of God's mind. So when we are having thoughts that are unholy or not of God, when we are saying these things from our internal selves deep within, we're actually just confirming the fact that we lack, okay? We are not in the I am of God if we lack. So why are we struggling to have this abundant life that God promises us? Is because we don't have his statutes. We are not living in the image of God. We are not abiding by his divine mind, okay? So we can listen to all the affirmations, all the videos. We know what to do. And I'm not saying that those don't help reprogram the mind, because thoughts create patterns that create the design of reality that you experience. Everybody perceives things differently, and that's because all of us have different pre-accepted truths within ourselves. There's things we believe that's not true at all. Things that's been programmed by the outside world that are lies and deception. So we take on the identity of that form and we assume it's truth, and that's the problem. Assumption could lead you astray if you don't assume properly. You better assume the identity of God. And by doing so, you know that the Bible tells us that our thoughts should remain holy, noble, true, honest, praiseworthy. That's a scripture. Are you having thoughts that are outside of that? The Bible literally tells you what to think. Are you programming yourself with thoughts that God tells you to? The life that we all are in search of, the manifestation of reality, comes from within. Know your worth, know your value, know your image, know who created you and where you came from, and carry along the traits that you inherited from God. That's going to set you forth and put you and propel you on your way. To transform your reality, you have to change your thinking. You got to change your thinking by creating a habit of understanding that you got to remain aware of your conscious thoughts. You can't let any thought slip past your awareness. To change reality means to believe in something different. But how do you believe in something different if you truly don't know within yourself? A belief is nothing if you don't believe it. You can say all day that you're rich, but if you don't believe you're rich, then you're really not going to ever be rich. So does a belief change reality? Yeah, a belief changes reality. if you know it. Belief is like saying, I hope I get this, and then faith is knowing you're going to get this. You have to step into the I am identity and say, I am worthy and I am going to get this. Okay, so I am this person. I will achieve. I already have achieved my goals. These mindsets make a difference. Belief is not knowing. Faith is knowing. Awareness is knowing. Do you believe in yourself or do you not? So where are we at in time? We are actually in a great time. As of March, the new year began. The new biblical year anyway. And in this year, the Kundalini has arisen. So what that means is illumination, okay? Illumination is also revelation. We're in a time where things are being revealed. But it's a special time, and it's a powerful time. The collective is going through a mass awakening. With awakening comes also deception, okay? And why? Is because in the beginning, God said, let there be light. That's Genesis 1-4. He created the heavens and the earth. He said, let there be light. He spoke it into existence, right? So when he said, let there be light, a lot of people assume this light is the sun, okay? But the sun didn't show up until the 4th day, according to Genesis. So we can't assume. That's what I was trying to tell you guys yesterday. Assuming things really lead you astray. I'm gonna get my boba. I'm gonna get my boba out. The light is consciousness. It's awareness. Okay? So the light is awareness. And it's the consciousness. It's the Spirit of God. In the light, when the light came, it divided night and day. That's why we have duality. So, you know, the earth was void. It was dark. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. And God said, let there be light. When he said, let there be light, there was a division, a separation, a great divide. Also, the light brought awareness. It brought sight. It brought sight to a place where once everything was dark. So that is the revealing. So Genesis runs hand in hand with Revelations because it's the revealing of. And with that comes knowledge. Okay, so you could also say the light is knowledge. The knowledge of awareness. It's also the knowledge between good and evil. Okay, so we know Eve ate off that fruit later in the narrative. But right now, we just have the knowledge of everything, okay, because it's the beginning of creation. And so the first commandment literally wraps up this whole statement, okay? So you got the first command of God, and it parallels with the first commandment, which tells us that thou shalt serve no other gods, you know, don't put any other gods before him. All right, well, that means to stay in the awareness of God. So out of all the knowledge given, he's laying out a circle of his divine knowledge for you to stay within his goodness. Now, all the knowledge given to us is not always good. There's always a lot of deception in knowledge. So right now, we're in that revealing, which is literally a time of illumination. So now you see why people are getting lost and whatever else. There's a lot of diversion. I mean, the great divide between good and bad happened on the first day of creation. And we are in that time. So what's that mean for us? Well, it means that we are dividing. There's a great divide. And so how do you know to stay within what's right and wrong? Because Eve already ate off that fruit. We already have all this knowledge here. And it's very hard to determine what side of the side you're on. You might think you're in truth, but are you in truth, right? So anyway, here's where we're at. Pre-accepted truths. God came when he hovered, and he hovered with something in him. He didn't hover like, God didn't come and hover empty-handed. It was his spirit that hovered. And within a spirit is a lot of substance. Subs means under, and stance means standing. Understanding. God came with a lot of understanding. And so he also came with the spirit of truth and knowledge and wisdom. All these spirits was in him. So we, as humanity lack some of these qualities that God has. Okay, these are precepts. Pre-accepted, preconceived. These are preconceived ideas. Also pre-acceptance, which means it literally is the fabric of your DNA. It's your inheritance from your father and your mother. Your bloodline up into the 3rd and 4th generation. Okay, so that's what's in you. Their beliefs, everything that they had within them is automatically pre-accepted within you. So if they looked in the mirror and didn't know who they were, if they were lost in the world, if they were in kind of substance abuse, or it doesn't matter what they were doing, they're inherently in you. Okay, so we come with precepts. Now we establish our own precepts as well. Our mothers and fathers cannot take upon the burden of our sins. They're not held responsible for our sins because we adapt and we grow and we develop our own pre-accepted truths, which we pass down to our children. We also can come back into the alignment to God, to the natural design of creation, and we can pre-accept his inheritance. Now God, when he came with purpose. He came to make a covenant, a promise of an abundant life. That abundant life is not lived by everyone. Why? The reason why it's not lived is because we are not living with his pre-accepted truths. So back to yesterday's video, if I was to feel unworthy or ugly or ashamed or bashful or any of these things, I wouldn't be putting out videos. And this is not going to be the only video because I don't care what anybody thinks, okay? Because I know who I am. I don't care if you like it or not. Don't watch me if you don't. But I know I can help people. And so there you go. If I was insecure, I wouldn't be able to reach people like I do. And I'm not going to stop. You see what I'm saying? But the character inside, that character, if I wasn't who I am, I'd be like, oh, man, I look like crap today. Okay guys, today I'm going to talk about, these things. I would be scared to talk about certain subjects. I wouldn't be who I am. Character is strength. Okay, so the character of God is his strength, his authority, his power, is who he is. That's why I said I am who I am. He is who he is. He is everything. He is the creator, the beginning and end. The words he says are built with characters. Characters as in letters. Take a letter out of something and you have misunderstanding. We're at the time of illumination. We're at the time of power. We're at the time where our character and substance and our traits are we're getting powerful information from the divine. And not everybody's hearing it. Matter of fact, the majority is not hearing it. They're too distracted. They're too distracted and distorted. The light of creation is what your awareness is on, okay? We live in a huge world, so we can't have all the awareness of the world. We're not big enough for that. We're not God. But when we narrow our focus in on something, we give our attention to it. Our conscious awareness goes to that attention. So yesterday I did a video and somebody messaged me and said, well, if you know truth, then you tell me what your political views are. That's what I'm talking about. Nothing in my video yesterday said anything about politics. But everybody's awareness is on politics and away from the divine truth within. And if we keep going down this path, what's going to happen is there's going to be a tug and a pull. There's a war. It's a tug and war pull. Why? Because we are opposing sides with massive amounts of energy right now. Massive. It's not like we just disagree. There's two sides that feel really strongly about one way or the other, and they're attacking people. If I would have started this video and said, hey, I'm a Trump supporter, I'm a MAGA, I'd have like thousands of people just not even want to hear anything I said. If I said, hey, I support Biden or whoever you think I need to support, then the other half would turn away. They ain't listening to God speak through me or anything about God because their narrow view is putting me in a category. You see what I'm saying? So yesterday my video was not about political stuff. And the truth is, I can't know all the truths. I'm not God. So just because I can see things, I narrow in the view of what I want to see. And it sure ain't wrapped up in politics right now. Because I can't change that. But what I could do is wake other people up to their own power, so they're not laying helpless in a time like this when we should be receiving the power of God. And so I'm going to get in here, but I just want to let you guys know, we're in the time of the Great Awakening. Home in and work on your own passions. Okay, God created everything with a purpose. And that purpose was to fulfill a promise. And that promise was an abundant life. Stop focusing your narrow attention and your narrow view and target range on something that doesn't even matter. Look around. Okay, stop hating. Because this hate is fueling a division, and it's going to cause a disruption. If we start having earthquakes, it's because of the fuel between two polarities. It's not just a physical thing, it's spiritual. So when we start having war within, we start self-destruction. It's no different than a body. If I have too much bad, then I'm not going to be healthy. Okay, it's no different. So we have to center. If you don't find a center, you're going to be unhealthy during a time that you need your health. It's vital. That's it. That's all I have to say about that for today, guys. Stay tuned for more. You guys got to try this. This was blue raspberry with strawberry bubba, or booba, or baba, or whatever. It's good. So if you've been riding along with me, you know we've been talking a lot about God lately and the fabric of reality. And the reason for it is because I'm building upon letting you know how to manifest reality. You have to watch the other two videos to get an idea of where we're going with this, but nothing I say is for no reason. I'm trying to teach you how to manifest the reality that you want. And you can't do that without understanding the fabric of creation itself. So we're in a time where we have to understand the precepts within us, these pre-accepted truths. We have to work on those so that way we align ourselves to the divine path. You can go to all the gurus and teachers and leaders and all these people on TV you want. All they're doing is literally pulling out substance from the Bible and then building from it and then calling it their own. This is the way, you know. But Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, the light. And nobody enters but through me. And how he entered is by truth in God. And the truth in God is that he created a life of abundance. And not everybody's living it. Matter of fact, the majority is not living it. So we have to go back to the very beginning and see why we're not living it. The fabric of reality is woven by precepts, your pre-accepted truth. Do you pre-accept God as your truth? And you have to know the Bible, meaning every word has a meaning behind it, and the meaning has been lost. So if you don't know the meaning behind the word, then you don't know the true identity of God. And that's where we get confused, and that's where we get led astray. So we have to understand what the words mean, because that's where value is given. The value that's added to your life, the currency of money, comes from the value of the substance within. In Revelations, God says at the end of times, we have to have our lights on, okay? If we don't have light, we're in the dark. What he's revealing in that is you have to have substance, and substance is meaning and value. I explained substance in yesterday's video, but if you don't have that understanding within you of God, then you are left in ignorance. In the book of Matthew, it says, stood before God and said, I have preached in your name, I've healed people in your name, and God still says, I don't know you, shoo from me. Okay, so many people just think they believe in God, they go to church, and they're under they're in fulfillment of the commands. But until you know God, and until you live by God, you don't enter heaven. Okay, it is very important to understand this. And you might argue and say, well, Jesus says that by him, if we believe in him, you know, he saved us. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, the light. Nobody gets to God but through me. He is the way, the pathway. We go his way so we know God, okay? So he teaches us that all the commandments of law summed up in two things, which is love God with all your might, all your heart, with all your soul. Put him first. And the second is to love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Okay? Those fill up the law. But in the beginning, in creation, the law was misunderstood. So the first commandment that says, thou shalt have no other gods, most people have other gods and don't know it, is what I'm telling you. Because if you have thoughts of, I don't look good, if you have thoughts that you're not good enough, if you don't know that you are the power, if you don't know that you hold the power to creation, then how are you going to create? These things have been stripped from us. Our paths have been led astray, okay? We oftentimes are not in the first commandment because we don't put him first. If you have a thought that's not a God, you're not putting God first. If you look in the mirror and don't see your beauty, you're not putting God first. If you don't work for God and stand for him and show a reflection of him in everything you do by treating others nicely, like I said yesterday, how could I do a video about God if I was scared to talk? Then I would not be working in my purpose of life, because that's my purpose. Okay, my purpose is to teach understanding and direct people's paths back to God, because we're in a time that it's crucial. Okay, so second commandment is to not serve any other graven images. We covered this yesterday. I'm going to summarize that to let you know that if you're looking in the mirror, if you're saying I'm tired, and if you're looking in the mirror thinking you're ugly, all these things, you're not in the statue of God. You're holding a graven image that's not a him. Okay, so we have to be the representation of God. Jesus does sum up all of this by love. Most spiritual teachers will teach you speak word into existence. That's the way God did, right? And then they develop a whole course, then they build upon this, and they take self-credit for teaching you how to manifest reality through words, through thoughts, words, and beliefs, okay? Yeah, they're taking substance from the Bible, but they're taking it out of context. Because what they're not mentioning is, and the reason why nobody's manifesting the life that they want, is because when you take it out of the context of God, you are actually moving backwards in time. You're going to repeat. You're going to have experiences that are not good. You might have a moment of great, but it's going to backfire. Because what you put out, you get back. If you're putting out things that are not of God and not of love, it's going to come back on you tenfold. That's witchcraft. Okay, so we all, every single day, manifest our reality by our thoughts, by who we think we are, by the inner things that we don't even hear ourselves saying, our subconscious mind telling us these things, these pre-accepted truths that are in us, that are limiting us. So if you don't realize what pre-accepted truths are, and if you don't reconstruct your pre-accepted truths, you're going to stay on the same path. You have to get out. You have to go deep within yourself and understand that what you pre-accepted as truth was lies from the beginning. And until you get back with God, you're not going to be on that abundant life. So what's not mentioned, and the most important thing that must be recognized when creating your own reality, is that God had intentions. Before he spoke, he hovered. When he hovered, he had the intention to lift us, to rise us, to expand us, to transverse the cross, okay? He wanted to bring us to him. And by doing so, he made a promise. It's a covenant. It's a full circle. So that covenant is a promise that if you walk by me, you will have the abundant life. Both here and there. You know, you're going to God's kingdom, but you're also going to experience a good life here on earth. Abraham, there's a lot of people in the Bible that has. You have to start your creation when you're wanting to create life. When you want to create the world around you, you have to start with precepts, pre-accepted truths. Understand the mind and the bondage you've been under, because the first commandment says, I took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. We never asked ourselves, what does Egypt mean and what does the house of bondage mean? Egypt was known to be led by a false god named Ptah, P-T-A-H. Ptah was responsible for creating a lot of religions, like the moon god, the sun god, different pathways to understanding. By doing so, he altered the path of creation to God. So he redesigned reality. He didn't create reality, he refashioned and redesigned it by thoughts and words. Okay, so yeah, we have that power, and that's why our reality is a hot mess right now. When we go by any other thing, any other understanding outside of God, we lose our path to an abundant life. So these laws aren't to, constrict us. These laws aren't to just control us. They're to make sure that we're protected. Even the name Ptah shows us that a path is being altered. If you spell path, P-A-T-H, correctly, you go right. If you spell P-T-A-H, you get Ptah, the pathway to destruction. If you want to live an abundant life without a path of destruction, you have to follow the path of God. You have to stay within his precepts of the mind. Know who you are. God had an intention. What is your intention on the world? What is it that you want to do? Have an intention. And then that intention automatically becomes a promise, because you're going to do it and you're going to fulfill this. It's a fulfillment of the will. It's a fulfillment of your will. And when God made the promise of an abundant life for us to come in agreement with it, it's a fulfillment of his will. In the Bible, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's John 1:1, okay? In the beginning, he gave us his word. Those words in that Bible hold the structure of reality together. It's everything that he is. Everything that he says gives him meaning and substance and value. And we lost that meaning because we misunderstand the word. Okay, we lost structure. We lost identity. We're going backwards in time. We've turned our back to God, and we're walking away because we don't even understand the word. And without the word, there's no characters, there's no substance, there's no value. Okay, the Spirit is infused with character. You know, I was born with the gift of seeing, but I still wasn't manifesting. I was actually manifesting the exact opposite as I really wanted to. And it wasn't until I realized that I have to pre-accept truths that are in God. Because for a long time, I didn't have those truths. You know, for a long time, I had things in me that was not of God. I've always prayed to God, but my life truly changed when I understood God. So knowing God is different from just reading a Bible and not understanding a word it says. And there's a reason why we don't understand it. That's because we don't even understand the meaning behind the words. We have to understand meaning, the substance of God that gives value to character. Okay? Value and strength to character comes from the words within, but you have to know the substance, the meaning, the understanding. And that comes from precepts. There's a certain way to read the Bible, and you can read it through precepts. That's where I've gained all my knowledge from. So, you know, I've read it from beginning to end, but also I understood that there's a pattern across. It's a weaving pattern. And my book actually teaches about that. It teaches you how to read the precepts and understand the deeper meanings and the layers upon layers of time. Okay, so time is a construct. It's a fabric of reality woven to create layers forming what we experience today. And we are 100% responsible for the reality that we've woven to this day. The law that's established, the boundaries within his mind, we have to stay within it. In Genesis, God literally made a covenant. That's what he was doing in the creation of time. Imagine a world that was dark, full of ignorance and misunderstanding, okay? A lot of people in science will tell you that the world was around for billions and billions of years. However, it was formless. It was formless because there was no meaning. There was no life in it until God gave his conscious awareness into existence, separating what was once hidden in the dark and now making it visible and seen. Why are we not asking what's Egypt? Why are we not asking what is the land of bondage? All of these things. The land of bondage is the mind. The mind that we became enslaved to by thoughts and belief patterns that were not established by God. Okay, so you can't just take little parts of it and assume your own identity from that and think that you're going to stay in the pathway to an abundant life. So God's saying, I am the word. You know my word, know my meaning, know my value, and value will be added onto you. Substance and meaning will be given to you. No longer will you be lost and astray in the darkness, not knowing who you are, not knowing your own identity, not knowing truth. Okay, so because the truth is you're powerful. You're very powerful. You know, a lot of people look to me like you're a seer, you see things. Well, what's in my future? You can have these same gifts. Maybe not astral traveling, maybe not this childhood curse that ended up being a blessing. You know, it could have led me around, it could have led me the wrong way. I could be doing readings and psychic things that could really affect people. You know, I only give psychic readings when God tells me to. And so that's because God's warning me to warn somebody. Even in my own life, I'm not always warned because some things God puts people through so they can learn lessons. You know, I can't stop death unless I've been warned that somebody's going down the wrong path. Okay, so not always will I be warned. I won't be warned about my own death, you know, though I highly doubt that. There's some things that, you know, The other times there could be an accident because somebody's not paying attention. I had that with my son. God showed me, hey, he's going to get in a wreck. He's not wearing a seatbelt. And I had to walk through that. I woke up in an out of body and I had to see my son laying in a cornfield because he did not wear a seatbelt and he drove recklessly. I mentioned it to him, and not even a week later he said, Mom, that could have happened. And he told me the story, and he told me exactly the location, which was exactly where I seen in my dream. Now those things are warnings, you know, and it's to change the pathway. God created a pathway that does not lead to destruction. And if we enter that pathway and if we gain his wisdom and understanding, we won't get lost and we won't end up in destruction. We're protected, okay? And right now we need this protection because the world is going into chaos right now. There's a division. There's a mass division right now. And I'm telling you, if it doesn't stop, we're going to have earthquakes like you have never seen before in your life. And this is not because I'm a seer. This is because it's written. It's written. I understand the pattern of creation. And so I understand that duality is separating, and the only thing that results is earthquakes. The reason why time was not revealed in the Bible, it says, you know, here are the warnings that time's ending, but it's not exactly revealing those times, right? It's because they're all warnings to let us know to turn from our ways, because God gave us that power by self-will, okay? So he gave us the choice of direction. He allows us to pick which path we go on. Rather we go in ignorance or we go in awareness. Okay, so in ignorance, we're causing the world to end. So that's why in Matthew, he literally says, "Shoo from me," spews him out of the mouth. In Revelations, he spews us out of his mouth because we don't know him. So don't think that just because you believe, you know. There's two separate things in belief and knowing. Okay, so that's major in this time right now to understand. I'm in traffic, so I'll be back with more here soon. If you read the Bible and knew that, hey, this is going to lead me to abundant life and this is how I get it, then more people would read it. So the structure of reality is the words woven in the spokes of existence, the circle of the wheel that keeps things moving. And somewhere we've gotten lost with the speaking. And our world is becoming deformed. Okay, it's breaking apart. We're hitting major divisions right now, and that's not good. So to create reality, you really need to have intention, a purpose, and the energy backing it. Okay, you have to have an action. You can't just sit around. You have to do something about it. So you put all these thoughts into motion. You speak the words of existence, and your intentions and your fulfillment will come full circle with your will. But you just have to stay focused. You have to find God. There's no way out of this hell unless you find God. You have to know. You know, a lot of people is like, oh, sorcery's bad. There's prophets in that Bible. A lot of people honestly don't know what sorcery even is, because the sorcery of the Bible is pharmakia. You can look it up. Pharmakia, I can actually put that in here for you. I'll clip it in. Pharmakia is a word that means pharmacy, pills, magics, potions. If you're using the pharmacy to take pills, you're into potions, that's sorcery. Literally. Like, it's our misunderstanding and our not knowing that's leading everybody astray. You have to understand the word of the Bible, and you can't assume things. You can't just assume something means something without going to the etymology of that word. Because we, right now, have to get on the right path. Because if we don't, we're really going to self-destruct. That's the end of story. Like, we are dividing and the world's getting crazy, and we have to go back to source, God. And yeah, so there are steps, there are guidances we can give, there are things we can do to stay in that alignment. But first we have to understand the precepts, because precepts determine the perception you see. And as you know, it's important that you see properly. You know, you could be in a room with somebody, you can go to a place and you could have the best experience, but you could bring somebody and they're like, oh, this was terrible. That's precepts. Perception. Precepts guide our perception. You want to see the life of abundance, you have to see through God's eyes. So yeah. Hey, today I got gummy bear or something like that. Gummy bear and strawberry boba with no ice. I would have to say my first drink, I was like, man, I probably should have got the other kind. The blue raz, but you know what? It's just so punchy. Like, it's just got this bite to it. It's like, I should start advertising for these people. Dutch Bros, it's the place to go.